video uh, for the request of one of my followers, Daniel. He wanted me to review or at least discuss the topic of video games or movies based on video games. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people talk a fair bit about this, but I can just definitely give my 2 cents on the subject for really like 30 minutes or so. But if you guys want to make a particular request for a particular video that you want me to do outside my normal video game walkthroughs and chaotic videos, please follow me on Patreon, www.patreon.com/talkativecarl. There's tiers that you can choose from to make a particular request, and I will make a priority to make a video for you and post it on Patreon for early access for my targetive community. Then you get the early access. But and of course follow me also on same name, Talkative Carl, for Twitch, YouTube, Patreon, and Twitter. Anyway, now he didn't give me any kind of specified particular thing that he want to discuss. Hell, Daniel, I'm talking about your video that you requested some time ago. Movies based off video games. Now, this over the years, I had to make sure I looked up just a handful of them. Not going to be like a huge list of it, but I put in like at least a handful of video games where they're like mediocre, sucked, or excellent. And yeah, I mean, there's been a fair bit. Now, I believe. Yeah, no problem, Daniel. Like, yeah, just make sure that you guys have their you guys have some input in certain reviews. Like, I want to make sure that you all are heard. This is like a talkative community, so everybody can get a say. So there's been like a fair bit amount of movies based off of video games. Some good, some bad, some ugly. I have a fair bit of ones that, some people might find like piss poor, and some people might agree with me that they're excellent. The Resident Evil films. Like, I did enjoy the first 2 Resident Evil films. I still hold true to my feelings about those 2. Those probably stuck with what the core of those movies are, and I think that's the key thing of making a solid movie based off a video game. Even if you want to not make a carbon copy of the game itself, but still maintain the core of what that video game is. It's kind of like with like Batman and Superman. You can make all kinds, just like with the comics, there's like a different variety of stories and alternate earths and stuff like that. The thing is, you don't lose that core, that ethos that make that character great. Like, no matter what Batman comic or what Batman TV show or Batman movie you're watching, the crux of Batman is pretty much like, I'm pretty sure all in agreement, is Batman the animated series 90s TV show. Probably the best, top tier, best interpretation of Batman to this day. And what everybody believes what makes Batman Batman. You can do, any writer or movie director or TV show runner can do their own twist to Batman, but it has to branch off from that focal point. And that's what, like, what happened to with like Resident Evil for I'm just talking about it. I didn't put any kind of slides or anything like that. I just make sure I roll it down so I just won't forget. I'm not gonna make a whole slide thing. But like the Resident Evil, after Resident Evil 2, they definitely veered off of what we liked about at least for most of us liked about the first two is pretty much like just dealing with zombies for the most part, and throwing like not a cameo, but just like a recognizable figure from the games, like they did with like what's that freaking creature's name with a bazooka in Resident Evil 2 in the movie. He goes around like just saying number stores. Because there's Mr. X, that's a different character on his own. And then there's shoot, what the heck is gonna bug the character? Let me take a quick look peek. Yeah. 1 second here. Because it's literally gonna bug me. Nemesis, thank you. Yeah, Nemesis. Because there's fair. Because the franchise of the Resident Evil games has been around in the recent game. Resident Evil Village just came out like today, I think. I'm gonna watch other people playing it, but I'm not into like scary games like that. I only play a few Resident Evil games in my youth: 0, Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. Only finished Resident Evil 5. The others I never managed to finish for some like different various reasons. But they have like, of course, like Leon Kennedy, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Albert Wesker, Nemesis, Mr. X, Sherry Birkin, even like someone as new as like Jake Mueller, who's the son of Wesker. Spoiler. These are very recognizable figures in the Resident Evil franchise that's been going on since like the early 90s. It's pretty close around the time of Mortal Kombat it's been around. So it has got a great fan base. I don't want to say great fan base. Every fan base got some toxic people in it, but it has like a shelf life. They a tried and true franchise they built up for over decades. And the first two movies managed to stick to that thing, and they it's just like the director, who's like the wife of the main woman lead, who I want to say she's like a bad actress. That would be mean. I'm pretty sure she's been in other stuff, but from what I've seen of her, it's just mostly been in Resident Evil stuff. And she was fine in the first two, but after a while she became more so superhuman, and was supposed to be like a zombie movie based off a game. Of course, the Resident Evil franchise did have their mutated monsters here and there, but you're like you jump in the shark almost after 3, because in 2 you still dealing with like a fair bit of just Raccoon City is like overrun, but in the game not only Raccoon City is overrun, but there's still other areas that still have some like cities that for the most part who hasn't dealt with like zombies. Because like I remember in Resident Evil 6 the game, like Chris Redfield and Leon Kennedy, I'm pretty no, not Leon Kennedy. It was like some other soldier meet up with Chris in like a town somewhere, getting like a beer. So obviously there's other places that haven't been overrun by zombies. So it wasn't. But in Resident Evil 3, the movie, it's like the whole world was like turned to a desert. And then in the next one, it's like, oh, there's a big city landscape in another area. It's like that's not what you depicted before. So like it's been like fell off. I'm glad they stopped making those movies, because like it's like it became nonsensical. It wasn't Resident Evil anymore. It was like a parody of itself, pretty much. And that's the one thing you should not do with a video game based off a movie. Shouldn't parody yourself. It's to stay true to the thing. That's why I personally like the new Mortal Kombat movie, because it's a nice soft reboot, and they maintain like mostly because they was working on a budget, but they managed to work within their limits, and they did not go crazy with it off the bat. I'm pretty sure the next one they'll have enough money so they can do bigger stuff, but I just hope they don't go too far. Be crazy, but not crazy. I don't want crazy would be like if they somehow make Jack's arms turn into rocket boosters or something like that. That's not Jack's anymore. You pretty much went crazy. I don't want something like that happening. What I expect, what this current Mortal Kombat movie would be like is like Mortal Kombat 9. It's like a nice soft reboot, and that way in the next one I expect something similar to Mortal Kombat X, when they or at least manage to be in that side of a tournament, and they bring in Johnny Cage, spoiler, and like now they can bring in like because Melina in the movie mentions about Terracontan army, which is she's part of this, her DNA has been spliced with that species, with the DNA of her sister Katana, who was in this movie, but bet you it'll be in the next one. But then you got the classic Mortal Kombat in 95 movie, the very first Mortal Kombat movie. Now keep in mind it wasn't rated R like this one was, so that was the big push that everybody want to make first their priority. This has to be rated R. There has to be like blood and dismemberment and stuff like that to make it tried and true. It's kind of like the Deadpool method. I think Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, is probably, I think he's the one we should be thanking for this, because he made a push to make sure Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie, to be rated R. It has to be rated R. That is the character. It's obvious that he has to maintain that tried and true the interpretation that we all know him to be. He has to be fourth wall breaking. He has to talk. Not his mouth shouldn't be sewn up. He has to have katanas on his back, not in his forearms. Of course, he has a healing factor, but he doesn't look the way they depicted in X-Men Origins Wolverine. They made him the right off the page comic book Deadpool, and since then people want to make sure that anything they're trying to adapt stay true to what that character or franchise is. And they didn't do that so much back in the 90s with the first Mortal Kombat movie, because at the time people that in our generation, because like the new Mortal Kombat movie, it's people in our generations who's behind the studio, the director, the writers, the producers. Everybody behind the writers' room are people who grew up loving Mortal Kombat, but wasn't in charge of things at the time in the 90s because we were just kids or wasn't even born yet. It's because like people who are not in a generation above us or older, and most of, I like to think the moms at the time had a problem with the Mortal Kombat games, because it was a whole courtroom drama situation over the violence in video games about Mortal Kombat. I mean, you can look it up. It's a whole thing. They, those right wing. I don't even want to say it's right wing in total, but it's like those parents, or mostly moms and senators, were bitching about how this is gonna be so violent. We don't want corrupting our kids, and they're gonna want to imitate this kind of stuff. So when the movie was like probably being, because I don't recall, I just know the movie was already out and it was just there. But I'm pretty sure while it was in development a year or two prior, I'm pretty sure they fought like hell just to make it the way it was, and they still managed to make it entertaining. And even though they took out the rated R section. They made it PG-13, so it wasn't like total kills. But they had to work with what they got, and I was amazed that it's managed to be as enjoyable as it was. But the Mortal Kombat Annihilation, that sucked balls. And I think that's probably the worst, one of the worst movies based off a video game ever. But then you got like the Sonic movie. The Sonic movie was a very interesting situation. I don't know if y'all recall how I think it was low-key, I think it was some kind of low-key marketing strategy where they put out like the very, very first trailer of this strange, odd-looking thing and called it Sonic, and people were pissed, and rightly so. And most people was like shocked to see, like, oh, I didn't know it was like that many Sonic fans out there. We all know Sonic. We know what he looks like. Just because we have been like clamoring for a Sonic game for decades, or like the Sega Saturn stuff was like kind of defunct or anything like that. It was like, it doesn't matter. It's like making a Super Mario movie and decide not to include his mustache and overalls without any of the movie. Can you imagine like a reboot Super Mario movie, and Super Mario does not look anything like Super Mario the way we know him to be? Like, he doesn't wear none of his, like, can you imagine him swapping out his red shirt and overalls for like a Hawaiian red shirt and just like cargo shorts, but no mustache, but calling himself Super Mario? Can you imagine how fucking irritated people will be? The Twitter uproar will be immense. So yeah, we were pissed at how Sonic was, and I'm pretty sure they had known that. Anybody behind that scenes probably would. Some people would disagree, saying like, why would they go through all that? Would you put it behind them to not do that? I mean, it's possible that they fouled it up on purpose. I mean, like on accident or whichever way in between. I don't know if we would call it an accident on purpose, but whichever way, would you put it behind them to make this like a strategy to put out this grotesque monster and call it Sonic, and have people completely in an uproar, and like make sure they get butts and seats when they put out, like, okay, they probably kept most of the same story, but they pushed in this grotesque monster. Oh my god, they're really upset. Let's pull back, push this movie like a few months later, but then show the new trailer a month in advance with the off the page Sonic face, and it's like, oh my god, he looks so much better, and then more people will go see it than they probably would have before because they want to see the better looking one. And I gotta say, if that was a strategy, it was a hell of a strategy. I'm not gonna knock them for that. But if it wasn't, y'all screwed up. Like, why would you even consider? I'm pretty sure it was the higher ups, not the people doing the graphics on the character. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them had to use the Sonic games as a reference to draw this guy, but then people above them who they have to answer to say, no, we got to make him look realistic, give him an actual face. And they probably couldn't say nothing, or if they said anything, like they wasn't listened to, and so they now have to probably work twice as hard. From what I've heard from other reviewers at the time, people who do these kind of graphics, CGI work and stuff like that, it's hard work, and they gotta like put in like a lot of overtime, which probably extra money they probably not gonna get if they got anything. We don't know for sure, but it's just they had to work twice as hard just to redo all that for the scenes in the movies, or they did them both. They did the correct one and the wrong one, and they put out the wrong one and just decided to push the movie in a future date with the right stuff. just to fool the populace to get more buzz and seats than they would previously. But nonetheless, despite the face, the movie was solid. It wasn't like Dark Knight level of good, but it still was an okay movie. It was fun to watch. I went to the theater to see it. It was probably the last movie I saw before the pandemic really hit. It was that and the Invisible Man movie. And the Sonic movie was very solid. I actually did enjoy it. And especially I cannot wait for Sonic 2, which is supposed to be coming out. I'm pretty sure they doing a production either later this year or into next year. But then what else? Then Detective Pikachu. That's another prime example. Detective Pikachu was spot on right off the bat. And any Pokemon fan like myself know what Pokemon is supposed to be like. And people behind that did not fuck around. And you talk about want to make it realistic. They make them look like the characters on the show, but they added these little touches like giving Pikachu fur because he's a mouse, and like Charizard, he's a dragon, give him scales, but still make him look like the character. Gyarados in that movie was straight up Gyarados, but just a little slimy and wet because he's a sea dragon, a sea monster kind of Pokemon. It was spot on. Now, of course, they couldn't really do like a traditional Pokemon movie like the animated films, which most of them are great, and that's another great example of a good movie based off of a video game. But they could not do like authentic real Pokemon battles. They kind of snuck it in the film during the middle of the movie with like a little showcase of Pokemon battles, or at least one that was about to wrap up. So because PETA like to bitch about the wrong things, I hope in the next Pokemon live action movie they just go full tilt and give people what they expect from Pokemon from the games into the big screen, and have them do Pokemon battles. Follow one kid. It doesn't have to be Ash or Red, but follow a kid going on his Pokemon journey. And matter of fact, make it an actual franchise, like they doing with like the Mortal Kombat movies. Like since the first one did successfully, they have like a contract in place where they like 3 or 4 movies can like come into installments guaranteed. Like have them do something like that where like you following this kid, and like the first film is him starting his journey with like a Bulbasaur or a Squirtle or somebody, and then going his journey from like the first movie dealing with like Team Rocket as an antagonist, like a long-standing overarching antagonist. It doesn't have to be Jesse or James, just like a generic, or not generic, but just their own version of a Team Rocket bad guy for this particular movie or something like that. And then what they can do is like from the start of it, from Pallet Town, maybe Pallet Town or some other startup little small town. And matter of fact, it doesn't have to be Kanto or Johto. They can probably make their own region for a live action movie. Just like they make their own little city in Detective Pikachu, Rhyme City. The Rhyme City is not like a city in any other game. It's the movie's own Pokemon town. So they can like start from like their little town, and then from that it can go up to the point of maybe the second gym, or like second, third gym, maybe. I think whatever can fit in like an hour and a half to up to 2 hours of movie screen time, and like getting their badges, catching Pokemon, and dealing with Team Rocket, but and have a little first skirmish with them or something like that. And then in the next installment, he's going through his maybe like 4th to like 6th gym, and then maybe losing, and it's kind of like dealing with loss for the gym, and like him dealing with Team Rocket more, and having other friends along the way kind of situation. And then the next installment, he's wrapping up all the gyms, and then the last installment, he or she can go to or you might have both girl and guy in the films partnering up and trying to get gym battles. Maybe that could be a thing, but then or be rivals. Like in the games, like you can have like a start off with the girl or start off with the boy, and have like vice versa to be the rival, and be like the best friend rival of throughout the entire franchise. And then like the last installment is them actually in like the Pokemon League, just like the anime, and in combination with the game, where in the anime you do this little tier structure and battling other trainers who managed to get all the gym badges, and they all competing just like in an anime. But then after you beat everybody, including maybe the rival, you challenge the Elite Four. Maybe that's just this off the top of my head idea, because they made a solid claim to making more live action Pokemon films, because they whoever, I don't know who directed this, but he should handle Pokemon live action movies going forward, at least a few installments to the franchise until like a character beats the Elite Four or the Pokemon the League. But then I also want like a live action Yu-Gi-Oh movie. That's what I really want too, because Yu-Gi-Oh came out like a year after Pokemon. I think it was like a year after Pokemon did, and that's a huge fan base itself. Probably not as much of a fan base as Pokemon has grown into, but it's fairly close. And I would like to see a live action. I'm talking about this in one of my walkthroughs of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, so I'm not going to harp on it that much. But just make it a live action, kind of like the way the Detective Pikachu did. Make it like your own movie version of a character who, and all these Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like a combine of all the Yu-Gi-Oh series from Duel Monsters up to Vrains, all those cards. Synchro, Fusion, Pendulum, Xyz, all of them like combined, because like Detective Pikachu, you see all different reasons of Pokemon all in one center, so you can easily see like a Trico here or Jigglypuff there, two different reasons of Pokemon, but all together. You get to see them all, at least all, like as much as they can fit in there, but they try to fit a lot in there. So do the same thing for a live action Yu-Gi-Oh movie. Make their own version of a character, doing like a version of Battle City. But then you have like little cameos from like the voice actors who done these characters, like the guy who did the voice for Yugi and the voice of Kaiba and Joey, and then the people who did the voice for like Yusei and Crow and Jack, and voice for Jaden and Astro and Yuma and Yuya, and so forth. That's I would love that. And then take my money. I would go to see that in a heartbeat. I don't care if it was like luster or if it was excellent. I don't care. I want to see that. And then then there's the Tomb Raider films. Now there's the Angelina Jolie ones back in like early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, and they were okay. They weren't terrible. They weren't excellent. They were middle of the road. Like, I enjoyed them, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who probably don't think one way or the other about the film. I think there's a middle of the road for them, because they didn't suck. I remember going to the theaters as a kid and seeing those films, and they did not suck. Now I'm rewatched them over the years every now and again, probably at least a handful of times over the years. It wasn't like a gross amount. It's not like Dark Knight, where I watched like religiously, like almost every few months I probably revisit that movie because it's so good. But with like Tomb Raider, if it's like on like TNT, sometimes it's like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while. Let's like, I want to just pop it in and just check it out again. It's a nice cool watch. But then the reboot came out. I think it was like, what was it? Somewhere between 2014 to 2017. I think it was around that time when that reboot, based off the rebooted Tomb Raider game, is based off of. And I believe I looked it up. I'm pretty sure I looked up when I looked up the list of video games, at least a handful to pick from. They is like, to be determined, but it did have it on a list like the Tomb Raider 2, based off the sequel to the rebooted movie, is supposed to be in the works. And I'm all for it. I didn't see the rebooted movie in the theaters. I did see it on TV eventually. I thought it was okay. And the actress, who's dating Michael Fassbender, by the way, I found that out last year. I hope she comes back again. I think she was like a solid Tomb Raider. And I definitely want to see her again. And kind of like, if the first one was based off the first rebooted game, I hope the sequel will be something similar to the sequel of that game. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not sure about anybody else. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment below which video game that you personally believe that most people might not care for, but you thought it was actually pretty solid. Because a lot of people only have like, the first Mortal Kombat movie, but the only, and then Detective Pikachu, probably the only two good video game movies. And like, I challenge you to, because I actually think Detective Pikachu, the first Mortal Kombat movie, and the recent Mortal Kombat movie, and the rebooted Tomb Raider film, and the first two Resident Evil films would probably be, like, I would say, well, I don't even know I want to even put the Resident Evil movies at all on that list, because over time they didn't age pretty well, to be honest. But I think they're okay, but not okay to be on that list. But I actually think like Detective Pikachu, the first Mortal Kombat movie, and the latest one that came out, Sonic, and the reboot of Tomb Raider were solid video games based off movies based off of video games. I think they are solid. They're up there as far as like good ones. I think, matter of fact, since Sonic and Detective Pikachu, moving forward, I think people are finally on the right track of how to make tried and true movie based off a video game, and sticking to the source material. That's the key. Sticking to the source material. Don't veer off too far. I mean, nobody's telling people to make a carbon copy of what you're trying to make, but try to maintain that core and what makes that character, or the franchise that franchise. Because I mean, the Monster Hunter movie that came out late last year, I didn't see it. I don't think anybody saw it. I'm pretty sure there's people that actually did see it. If you saw it, please let me know what you thought of it, because from what I've heard, it's bad. And because why it's bad, I knew it was going to be bad. Because why I thought it was going to be bad, because I'm not a Monster Hunter player at all. I've seen other people play it. I think it was very interesting. It's cool, not my cup of tea, but looks pretty solid of a game, of a franchise. They have some nice lore and history. Thing is, what I do know of Monster Hunter, basic premise: you're in this little fantasy world, group of villagers or just people who are living in this like fantastical world, either in like different landscapes like a forest or frozen tundra. They go out, it's kind of like nomads or something like that. They go out and hunt these creatures, take body parts and fasten them into armor or weapons. That's it. And it's fun. From what I've seen, it looks fun, and people are entertained, are like loving this. There's like a lot of Monster Hunter fans out there, and what they did in the movie was trying to make it like these group of soldiers, and that's another thing. Anytime, because I don't know what her name starts with, I think Mila Jovovich, I think that's her name, who did like all those Resident Evil films. She's star of this, and any movie she's in is always her husband, who's the director. Always, he's the only one that casts her in things, because everybody else knows better. I think maybe there's one other thing that she was cast in that her husband didn't direct himself, but even still, she always played the same trope. She playing this Alice character, like from the Resident Evil movie, but sticking in like a Monster Hunter movie. And she is like pretty much like she and a group of soldiers, military. It's kind of like a Michael Bay thing. It's like you guys gotta show off that military strength, and it's like, you know, these military people get caught up in this, like, I guess portal or something like that, and get, you know, kind of like a Bermuda Triangle kind of scenario, and they get warped into this alternate world in the Monster Hunter world, and they gotta deal with all these creatures and everything like that. Why are you overcomplicating it? I remember talking to other people who was talking about this last year when they brought up this game was coming out, or this movie was coming out, and they didn't understand what they didn't play Monster Hunter. So I, you know, sent a message to them, like, as I was watching them talk about this live, and because they weren't familiar with the stuff, so I sent in like a chat and let them know from what my reckon is. I told them, like, I'm not totally familiar or like a huge Monster Hunter fan. From what I've gathered from watching other people play, is what I described to you. It's basically just this, like, a fantastical world where these kind of nomad kind of people go out, hunt monsters, kill them, take back, you know, their just like Native Americans, take back their killing to fashion weapons and armor and stuff like that, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. It don't need to overcomplicate it, and that's why it sucks, because he's trying to, like, do all this extra stuff. He's trying to, you know, put a hat on a hat, essentially. That's probably why it sucked. We knew from the jump it's gonna suck. I was like you already lost people as soon as you probably put this, you know, actress in, and you try to add like military crap in it. It's like you don't need all that. Then there's of course there's the Tekken movie. There's Tekken and Street Fighter, those fighting games. Now, besides the Mortal Kombat movie, Tekken and Street Fighter didn't really get their fair shake. I think they actually can be made into like a solid movie. They just haven't done so yet, because, like I said, hardly anybody who make these things stuck to a source material. And I think at the time, studios didn't have much faith in, like, it's kind of like they didn't have much faith in female-led films. They just, you know, kind of like throw enough money to just like, okay, let's see if it works. I doubt it'll work. They don't have any faith in this, what it boils down to. So they didn't have any faith in these things, because the first Street Fighter movie with Van Damme, who behind the scenes, if you didn't know, was all kinds of hell. It's a fortune it managed to be still relatively okay to most people, especially Street Fighter fans, mostly because of Raul Julia, who played M. Bison, and he's a phenomenal actor. It's like R.I.P. Raul Julia. He died of cancer a little bit after the filming of this movie back in the day, because he was like a trooper. From what I've heard from other people who did more thorough research than I did, he was like battling cancer in the middle of shooting, just like with, like, you know, Chadwick Boseman with his situation, battling this like horrible disease, and still managed to be a trooper and still go through these films before their passing. But in the middle of, you know, Raul Julia doing his thing and trying to, like, you know, come on set and do his chemo at the same time, you got Jean-Claude Van Damme at the time. This is all filmed in Thailand at the time when they was doing the Street Fighter movie, and he was off doing on his drug binge, and people was like trying to scramble to get him on set and everything, because most people sometimes couldn't find him, so they can't, you know, canceling shooting or push the shooting to like the next day until like he showed up so they can film his parts and everything like that. And then of course that's I mean, I'm about to say there's nothing compared, but I want to say it's like a reverse of nothing compared, but to on set where, like, during the filming they made Blanca. If you don't know Street Fighter lore, Blanca was basically a kid who was traveling with his family. It was like making this flight to this trip. I'm not sure it was to Brazil, but the plane crash that he was in, the plane crash in, you know, some kind of like a remote part of Brazil, like often like a wilderness, and he was stuck there for like years. And he grew up in a wild, basically, and like uh I think like his skin color was permanently green from all like the leaves he had to hide in from the predators, I think, or something like that. I might be butchering it, but something similar to that. And he fed off electric eels, so that also contribute to his electricity powers. But in the movie, Bison, with the help of Dalsim, uh, uh, a Hindi monk-like character, was a scientist in the movie and helped Bison create this machine that turned people into like a Neanderthal kind of situation. So Blanca was, Guile, who Jean-Claude Van Damme was playing, was his best friend kind of situation. This is a complete spoiler. If you haven't seen most of these movies I'm about to bring up, you might want to watch this movie, watch this video later. But that was like very off. Of course, I didn't know it at the time because wasn't that deep in like fighting game lore like am in my over the years. I'm more of like a Street Fighter fan than even like Mortal Kombat, but I had an appreciation for those two fighting games. And like Tekken 2, like a third, like it's like Tekken, Mortal Kombat, and the Street Fighter is for my favorite fighting games. But I played a fair bit of a wide variety of fighting games, like Virtual Fighter and Killer Instinct. But those three are like my top tier favorites. I think Killer Instinct is like rank number 4. But they made Dalsim a Hindi, like in the game, like we all know Dalsim supposed to be like this like a passive a monk like Hindi character that uses his like spiritual art of yoga to make his arms and legs stretchy, and we accepted it. It seemed like just the right amount of goofiness to make it believable, because yoga is from Hindu originally. But then they turn him into a scientist. Dawson's not a scientist. He's not that smart. He's wise, but he's not smart like a scientist. And then like they made God, what was it? Zangief like an idiot because he's working for Bison, and then like they made like Ryu and Ken arms dealers, and like Chun-Li a reporter when she's supposed to be a cop, or at least an FBI agent or a CIA agent, like at least law enforcement of some degree. And it was like all out of whack. I'm mad. Like I said, it's a miracle that it managed to be as successful as it was by the grace of God. I wouldn't say successful, but just good enough where people can stomach watching. It's kind of like Batman and Robin movie. It's like it's dumb fun. It's not atrocious enough where people write off as like the most horrific movie ever. But it's just like it was a whole lot of screw ups, on that movie. And kudos to the director of that time. I don't know who it was, but to manage to pull that together as best as he could with what he had to work with and the studio mandate at the time, kudos to him. He should have gotten an Oscar. As the man, any director who managed to do something of that caliber with little backing and I won't say crappy actors, but just unprofessional actors, at least maybe one or two of them, he deserves an award of some caliber. But then and at Tekken, I haven't seen the Tekken movie in years. I only probably saw it once or twice, but I think I like I said, it's been so many years. I haven't seen that thing in forever, but from what I recall, I might be remembering DOA movie, Dead or Alive movie based off the game. I might be confusing the two, Yeah, I might be confusing too. I think the what I'm thinking of is the DOA movie. I think they stay true to the source material, but it still did not do as well. I just don't know what the reason was. They might have slipped up somewhere. But then the Tekken movie, I think they kind of I like to say they only veered off a little bit, but I don't think it was not much. It was just wasn't good for some reason. I thought, at least from what I remember, I thought they managed to stick to the source material, but they might have slipped up somewhere. I just can't remember. Then you got what's next? Go ahead. Yeah, and then I want to talk about the future films, to what to expect, like Borderlands game based off the film. Based off the game. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a huge Borderlands fan. I never played the first one. I played 2, and that's what got me hooked, because they had that ninja character that really Zero that caught my eye. And then since then, I played all the games that came out since then. I'm a huge fan, and I cannot wait for that. And then of course the Uncharted movie based off the game starring Tom Holland. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a huge Tom Holland fan because of he's Spider-Man to me, as well as Tom Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but you catch my drift. Those I'm pretty sure are going to stay true to the source material. So is like Sonic 2 and Tomb Raider 2. I'm pretty sure they're going to acknowledge what the recent Mortal Kombat movie and Detective Pikachu did, and stay true to the source material, and acknowledge what happened, like learn from the past. Basically what I want to get at, learn from the past, what went right and what went wrong, and try not to repeat those mistakes, and you will be good. I think like a lot of people are very not in the middle of a road at all with this new Mortal Kombat movie. You either liked it or you hated it, and I think there's more people who in the like category than in the hate category. I think people, I want to say they hated it. I think they more so like they didn't like, or at least were, I want to say confused, but I'm pretty sure they know their fair bit of. From what I heard from most people who were reviewing that movie too, like knew only a little bit of Mortal Kombat, at least just enough to know what it is and what have you, but they didn't like what was done. Well, I'm glad you liked it, Daniel. I thought it was solid too. You know, most people probably didn't like so much of what they did with certain characters. They didn't think most characters was fleshed out enough. I think I agree with them on 2 things. The people who didn't like it, I agree with them only on 2 things. The main character, Cole Young, he was bland as fuck. I did not like him. It's not the actor's fault, but it's just he's bland and he wasn't needed. And then the fact that the pacing was a little bit too fast here and there. Like, you know, Sonya getting those Icona powers of hers, while the others had to train a little bit just to acquire that. Just because he killed Kano and got his tattoo, now she's like popping in, and oh, by the way, I got, you know, those shock purple powers now. Yeah, this focus should be on Liu Kang. And that's another thing. Some people complain about Liu Kang in this movie being like what people liked, and I understand what they're talking about. The original Liu Kang, we liked him because he had his serious moments, but he tossed in a joke here and there. He was charming. The actor was very charming. And what they did with this version of Liu Kang, he wasn't cracking he shouldn't be Deadpool, but he should be, you know, cracking a little bit of joke here and there, you know. That's the thing. And you know, I think that's pretty much what the most I had to say about it. It's like, you know, just stay true to the source material pretty much. If you want to make a video game based off a movie based off a video game to work, you have to stick to the source material. Don't go off. Don't veer off too far, but just make sure that it always comes back to the core crux of what fans love about these characters. hopefully, I've been telling people this since the movie came out. They have, they have to work with what their limited budget was. And like, if you pay close attention, you notice all the Easter eggs they managed to fill in with like the Mortal Kombat ethos. Like, you see like a picture of Nightwolf and like a statue of Kotal Khan. You see like a little display of Katana's fan over in the distance somewhere while you going over these trophies like Shinnok's amulet. You get these things, and what they did with Cabal was funny. Him and Kano was like the best part of those films. So it's like they're on the right track. I mean, and it's like now in the next sequel, they will have enough budget to do the tournament. That's what a lot of people's complaint was. They didn't do the tournament. They've been talking about this tournament. It's like they didn't have enough money for no tournament. You gotta, cut them some slack. Give them a little bit of slack, because the fact that they managed to do this on a limited budget is still a miracle on its own, and still did it well. They put the money where they need to be, which is like Goro and like the movement speed of Cabal and like the mouth and everything like that for Mileena. They managed to put it in where it needs to be. And people didn't like some, not all. Some people don't like what the entrance of Kung Lao. It's like, dude, like, he made a grand entrance by doing his classic, portal popping up through the use of his hat. And then he had probably one of the best fatalities, making his hat like a buzzsaw and slicing Navara, I think that's her name, the vampire lady, or what's his like supposed to be the vampire lady? I can't remember. Might be confusing it with another thing, but I'm pretty sure it's like a vampire lady, even though she didn't have any lines, and neither did Navarro, who's like the big hammer guy that I didn't mention in my review of that of that movie. He's like a bigger character in the Mortal Kombat video game lore, but they reduced him into this like yelling brute, kind of like Bane in Batman and Robin. And I understand that. I didn't think he offered much to the movie other than to be this non-speaking big brute heavy hitter they needed, and they could have gave him at least some lines. But all in all, he still managed to hit it off and hit it out of the park. And I'm pretty sure, because Mortal Kombat is known for bringing characters back, because death doesn't mean nothing. Despite all the kills, death doesn't mean nothing. So you get to see Mileena come back. She's coming back because people love Mileena. And of course, Johnny Cage. People love to see Johnny Cage. He's supposed to be the quippy guy, but they gave that to Kano. I'm pretty sure Kano's coming back. Cabal's coming back. I don't know about Goro. Somebody's gonna have to be left behind. Goro, I think he should be left behind. Navarro, I think he needs to be left behind. I don't think he's ultimately needed. Even in the Mortal Kombat games, he's not a big, he doesn't leave a big impression anyway, so he can be left behind. It's not a big deal. But definitely gotta show off Baraka. And Shang Tsung, the guy who plays Shang Tsung, he's not that very threatening. I don't think I mentioned this in my video of that Mortal Kombat movie, but he's not very threatening. He's like he's kind of like Shang Tsung's, like the OG Shang Tsung in the 90 movie. I forgot the actor's name, but he always plays villains. He left, and to this day, he leaves an intimidating presence. You believe him as Shang Tsung. You believe him as being like a true villain that would, because he actually is like a martial artist, like a real true martial artist. Like you believe he can really, take your life. But this one looks like, OG Shang Tsung's little brother that you can easily push in a locker. But anyway, yeah, that's my overall thoughts on like video games based on movies. It's like, it's good if you stay true to the source material. I think that's the key, and don't veer off too far. It's kind of like we all got our different favorite versions of Batman, but what make Batman Batman and what we love about him is like they still maintain that heart of what we love about that character. They didn't veer off too much, aside from like people complain about him killing his people with his like Batmobile and like the BVS. for the most part, it's still like Batman at the end of the day. So yeah, you got like Matt Reeves Batman with dude from Twilight, and you got Ben Affleck, you got Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton. You got all these different interpretations. Kevin Conroy in the voice of Batman, but they all come from that same focal point. So and that's what they need to do with these video games. If you want to movies based off of these video games, if you want to do them right, stick with the source material. Anyway, in a few minutes, I'm gonna wrap up tonight with my spoiler review of Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 2 Battle City Arc. If any Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans out there want to join in on the discussion and hear me talk about my thoughts on it, join me in like a couple of minutes while I get that prepared. So don't forget to, of course, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, Patreon, and Twitter. And and if you want more videos like this that you want me to talk about in the future, please follow me on Patreon. Choose a particular tier that you feel comfortable with, no pressure. If you want to go to the smallest tier, that's fine. And that way your request will be top priority, and I will make a video of that as soon as I can. And of course, the early access thingamajig, of course, Patreon members get first access. So anyway, I will see y'all soon. And if you watch this on YouTube in the future, leave a comment below and let me know what you think about like video games based off of movies. What you think make them successful in your own opinion, and what you think were the best video games based off of movies. Movies based off of, I keep doing that. Movies based off of video games that you think were the best. Which ones you think was hot garbage? I'd like to hear your thoughts. And I will see you all soon. Take care.